Whatever.
Great, Robert.
Moving.
Good morning, Dana. How are you?
But I. All right. What are pasta pots?
What?
All right, y'all ready to get started?
Yes.
Let's see, who do we got here? All right. Oh, we got time. We got a few more minutes. I'll go ahead and just take some roll here. We'll start on a few things. Hello, everybody. Grace and peace be with you. Hello, Kitty. Let's do this. On your hand, everyone got the handout? Yeah, I've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So everyone's got the handout. Turn to page 3. And if somebody would be so willing and so kind as to lead us in the opening prayer. Not you.
Not me.
You're it every time. Let's share the wealth here. All right, you're closing, Leon. You're closing. Dave?
Let us pray. God of truth and compassion, you call us to walk humbly, love kindly, seek justice courageously. As we examine difficult stories and challenging narratives today, grant us openness to hear your voice above the noise. Help us to discern clearly the difference between truth and distortion, myth and reality, faithfulness and manipulation. May our conversation deepen our understanding and sharpen our witness as followers of Christ, in whose grace we trust. Amen.
Amen. All right, so we're going to go around. Kitty, we're going to start with you in the one-word check-in. And then we'll go Carla, Frank, and then we'll serpentine towards the back. Share your name and one word describing your emotional reaction to this week's reading.
Kitty. Ostrich.
Ostrich. Okay. Carla.
My head's been in the sand, obviously, because I didn't realize how deep all this is.
Oh, okay. Good word.
Carla, frustrated.
Frank, sadness. John, overwhelming. What's one word?
Diana, oh,
Al, depressed.
Joan, disgusted.
That was my word. David, disgusted.
Raven, overwhelmed.
Roxanne, incest.
Leon, appalled.
I'm going to go back to Roxanne. You, incensed, not incest.
Yes.
Since.
Very different terms. Diane.
Diane and, scared.
Scared. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to try and move us on through stuff today. I know for sure I want to try to talk about a little bit in chapter 4, and I have a good bit that I want to talk about I have a little bit that I want to talk about in chapter 4, a lot that I want to talk about in words. I have a little bit that I want to talk about chapter 3. I have a lot that I want to talk about related to chapter 4.
Yeah.
And I just got a couple of places to highlight in chapter 5. Before I do so, I want to, yes, ma'am. What is my word?
Yes.
Oive.
It has to be English.
Doesn't. Totally.
Before I begin, I want to talk a little bit about this battery of PDFs and files that I sent you earlier this week. So first and foremost, I believe everybody in here right now is on my email list. So you should have received something from me earlier this week, and I think it might have had 5 or 6 attachments. Okay. Loads of reading. This is optional resources for you, not necessarily something that I'm going to cover in depth in this class. However, I do want to talk a little bit about a few of those items. One was called Confronting White Christian Nationalism. This is a 2-page document that was put out by the PCUSA, General Assembly Committee on Ecumenical and Interreligious Relations. And I appreciate that our denomination actually has published a document. This is, and another one of those handouts would have been the article to accompany this from the Presbyterian News Service. And that way, that's the article. This was the true source material. That's what, there you go. Door prize for you, Frank. So I want y'all to know that both of those two are short, simple, easy to read. That resource that they created from Geisher on the second page is some liturgical or some prayer aspects of how we might engage the concept of Christian nationalism. And maybe if a context wants to use it in worship, then it's available for that. There are many Presbyterian churches, as well as Disciples of Christ and the United Church of Christ, the UCC. Those 3 denominations have found themselves struggling when it comes to patriotic holidays, such as Memorial Day weekend, Veterans Day, Flag Day, 4th of July, President's Day. These are congregations that struggle with that in the sense that the concept of Christian nationalism has sucked so much oxygen out of the room that to utter any types of patriotism in the context of worship, there's a fear that, oh, this must be one of those Christian nationalist churches. And I think part of what a resource like this does is to help religious leaders in our denomination and church context to be able to say that you can chew gum and walk at the same time, right? You can be a good and faithful, proud citizen who is also a faithful Christian who practices worship without necessarily confusing the two. And so I think those are some good starter resources for you to consider. Another one that I considered, I think I called the document Justice Department, maybe. This was something that Frank and John Hoffner pulled up last week. And in that document, I researched earlier this week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different resources on the 2 things that Frank and John had pulled up with regarding 2 different things. One, a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias in the federal government, which was related to an executive order that was signed. And the other one was the establishment of a Religious Liberty Commission under this current presidential administration. These are things that have happened within the last 6 months. And so what I gave you there was some high-level review of this source material for you, if you're so interested, to look over and to understand better their arguments, to understand better what some of this movement is. Now, for me, I'll just simply say that as I was engaging this source material, which was new for me last Sunday, and I was going through it this week, I began to understand in the language and some of the points that they're trying to make here. I was able to draw connections to the thing that Catherine Stewart is talking about in the book, Power Worshippers book that we're studying right now, and say like, oh, okay, so some of the things that she's elevating, and we're going to talk about some of that today, that she's elevating as dog whistles for the Christian nationalist movement that have been around for decades, half a century or more, I can see echoed in that in the current administration under these two movements that John and Frank told us about last week. If anybody wants a printed copy of that, I have a printed copy. I'm just going to set it right here with John. And now for the final PDF that I sent. It's a lot of pages. What did I say it was? Was it 29 or 33?
29.
Here it is, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of pages. And again, please understand that this is high level. So I provided for you the hyperlink on that first page so that if you wanted several hyperlinks, that if you wanted to go look at the modules from Texas Bluebonnet, you can go look them up yourselves. They're all free, available online. They're in PDF format. And as I was researching and going through all of these, I selected the ones that I thought would contain material that is relevant to Christian religion. So the units that I surveyed in here is not exhaustive. So it's not every PDF K through 5. Some of them, like there's a chemistry unit, had zero to do with Christian religion. Now, I say that, and I'm saying that I looked through it and there was nothing there. And because there was nothing there, I didn't include it. So I've looked at least 90% of all of the K through 5 curriculum. And the survey that I gave you in this document includes all the ones that have overt messaging about Christian religion or religion in general. There are a few earth science units that talk about evolution versus creation and the story of creation, and so what I tried to give you is the best digest of this. Frank was saying we could do a whole course on going through this alone, and you're right, I could. There's a big part of me that just wants to just wax poetic and talk about all the different examples that are in here. It really starts to get heavy, certainly in the kindergarten unit. There are units in kindergarten that is like the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, which makes great sense for kindergarten. And they already cover that in some fashion because, that old poster, everything I ever needed to know, I learned in kindergarten, right? I mean, we're already covering that stuff in some way without having it to be overtly Christian Bible study. I attended I feel my back exposed.
Your mistake.
I attended, I'm going to introduce you to a organization. When we start talking in chapter 3, chapter 4, I'm going to introduce you to an organization, a Christian, very much a Christian nationalist organization. And they hosted a 2-hour breakfast with the Texas Education Agency commissioner for the state of Texas, the education commissioner for the state of Texas, the grand poobah of them all, so that he may come to this organization, this evangelical Christian nationalist
yeah.
breakfast, and to talk to them about Bluebonnet. And I choose to be on those email distribution and lists so that I might know when occasions like that happen. And as a pastor in Austin, I was invited. I probably am not on the true list that would have been sought out by this organization, but I was like, you know what, go anyway. And in the 2-hour presentation from the commissioners, Michael Morath is his name. He did a high level presentation of this. He talked about the trial runs that they've already done with several districts and the successes they're seeing. There are elements about this curriculum that are incredibly well designed. The organization of the Christian nationalist movement is high functioning. This is something that is not a fly by night. This is something that they have figured out and operates incredibly well and has lots of money. And they've been playing a long game for decades, as this book is showing us. So one of the things about this is that Mike Morath said to the group and would say to you is that that the Bible, the Old Testament and New Testament, should not be excluded from any curriculum because it has good source material, as you would with Aesop's fable, right? It's source material or other things. And if you're studying Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail, in that letter, he talks about the book of Daniel, the three dudes, Eshak, Meshach, and Abednego. I kill those names. I kill those names every time. He said, for the students to better understand the point that King is making, you need to be able to do a Bible study of Daniel, is his argument. And he says, look, see, even in these other places like the Golden Rule, we're also including, excerpts from other source material from other religions and this, that, and the other. And while that may be true, part of what I wanted to do in this survey was to say, what's the predominant source material that's being used? And is the Christian Bible is the predominant source material that's elevated more than any other source material. And to the tune of like greater than 75% of all religious citations have a Christian bend to them or from the Christian Bible. Most of the stuff that is in this curriculum isn't overtly doctrinal, right? So if I wanted to talk to you about the theory of atonement, that would be a doctrinal theological point that I would be making and arguing. A lot of the curriculum K-5 is not making doctrinal theological litmus tests to which you need to believe. However, if you can imagine the impressionable youngsters of elementary age, the more exposure to one religion over another's and the consistent exposure to that, uplifting it as source material, it inherently bakes in, I believe, and I would argue, a doctrinal belief system that may be in opposition to people in other faiths like Hindu, atheist, Muslim, etc. So I do find this incredibly challenging. I have not included any information about the 10 Commandments. It's being debated right now, but in 4 weeks, when school starts, it will likely have to be in the classroom of across the street. And the challenges during the debate of the Texas legislature on the 10 Commandments was, well, which 10 Commandments are we talking about? Are we talking about Old Testament, the Old Testament Ten Commandments that the Jews have translated? Are we talking about the Ten Commandments, the ways the Christian translated, and which type of Christians? The Catholic version of the Ten Commandments, the Protestant version of the Ten Commandments? And because each of them have some nuances
Yes.
that imply theology, as well as, what an affront it is to, God bless you, um, to persons who are a Christian, who are not Christian, when it says you should have no other gods before me, and you say have a Hindu who has multiple gods. Is that saying that I am someone who is not welcomed here? I am, there's something wrong with me in my religion because of what's posted on the wall, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another topic for another day, but all of that gets baked into this one larger movement, which we see with what Catherine Stewart's writing about, that again, public education is both something that the Christian nationalist movement wants to eradicate, dismantle, break down, tear away, throw away, or if it has to remain and be lingering, then it needs to be under our control. Okay. So, we have many districts in this last week, since last Sunday when we met, we have $8 billion less in the United States Department of Education, and schools starting in a few weeks, and many of those districts trying to figure out how the hell are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Frank.
So how does this affect the other states? Because the two largest states that determine the curriculum for most of the United States are Texas and California. And so since Texas is going this route, how is this affecting all the other states?
I can only speak for Oklahoma, and that's all I know. And Oklahoma is so far beyond where Texas is,
Terrible.
that again, I could research that and provide you with a whole nother white paper. But it's in Catherine's book, she mentions, I want to say in chapter 4, something called Prager University.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the curriculum that has been adopted by the Department of Education for Oklahoma. And there is a doctrinal litmus test for public education teachers. In order to teach in Oklahoma, they'll have to subscribe to this. And so we'll see how the Supreme Court handles all that nonsense. The point I wanted to make with this handout, the curriculum handout, is, what I appreciate about the Bluebonnet curriculum is that it's free and available. In fact, he says, all we're going to charge you for is if you want a hard copy. So if you want hard copies, just pay the printing and shipping. We'll send it to you. Otherwise, go get it. It's yours. There it is. And every parent can come and see. You have the hyperlinks. These are not behind a paywall. You don't have to have a username and login to get this information. It's all there, transparent and free. Now, that is also part of what the levers of Christian nationalism will pull in two ways in particular. One, if Leander Independent School District said, we want to use the Bluebonnet curriculum, but it's going to cost money for us to print it. Their argument is you have 11 people in-house that you pay close to, $4 or $5 million for that whole department to write their own curriculum. You use our curriculum, you can get rid of them. Think about the savings that you would have on your already strained budget. How is it that you have a strained budget? Well, we take away $8 billion from the United States and we don't fund it through the state of Texas. So good luck. And so we put the screws on to make things tight in the pressure cooker through the levers of power to make it difficult for the districts financially. But then we throw you a lifeline and say, you know what, we'll give you this curriculum at a low cost of free. All you do is pay for printing and shipping. And think about the millions of dollars that you could save. Oh, but by the way, you have to get this stuff and you got to use it as it is. What I believe, the route that I think that this is going is in the next legislative session, my guess would be is any school district in Texas that wants to receive money from the state will have to use Bluebonnet. If they want to get money from the state, they will have to use Bluebonnet. Right now, it's you can pick it and that will save you money in the units you pick. It is now the official, I'm gonna see you, Roxanne. It is now the official curriculum for the state of Texas. This is the only curriculum that is allowed to be taught in teacher colleges in Texas that receive money from the state. And so this is what our education programs are required to teach now, effective this year. Yes, Roxanne. Well, that would be my next thing I was gonna say is there's the incentivize. I mean, that is the incentive, which is it's free. The other part of that, Leander says, well, all right, well, you know, it still would cost me $800,000 to print this, to pay for printing and shipping and all this, that, and the other. And a nonprofit group says, we'll cover that expense for you. And that is already happening across the state in these districts that are choosing this are these Christian nationalist groups who are saying, we'll cover the cost for you. And when we do, you need to put our sticker for inside the book cover. Saying this material provided for you by that. So it's a well orchestrated machine. It's high functioning, and let's get into chapter 3. I want to talk a little bit about chapter 3. I'm going to try and cover some of 3 and 4, and then I've got 2 videos I want to show you. And then we can open up to more general questions and discussion, okay? Chapter 3, excuse me, drink, Joshua. In chapter 3, one of the things about the chapter 3 topic was about the concept of abortion and abortion becoming this kind of stalwart flag, this flagship topic from which we will all rally around. Now, some may think, and she argues this, that abortion is the thing that launched the Christian right, the Christian nationalist movement. And the argument that she's making in here is it becomes the galvanizing topic for all of these various right groups and right evangelicals. And really becomes the vehicle for launching this, you know, now almost 50-year movement or this 50-year-long movement of Christian nationalism, the way in which we know it. But she argues that it has its Christian nationalism has its roots in, what are you saying? Its roots in the concept of segregated schools. So that there are nonprofit universities and schools that were segregated, that in 75, when the IRS said that you must have integrated schools, this is what began to mobilize. The primary concern that initially brought leaders together was the threat of losing tax-exempt status for segregated Christian schools and universities following the actions of the IRS against institutions like Bob Jones University in 75. Bob Jones Sr. believed they had a God-given right to both separate races and to receive federal funding for it, which is so hilarious because on the one hand, you have a Christian nationalist ideology that money from the government is socialism and you know we should reject it, we're a capitalist. And at the same time, well, if you're gonna be doling out money, you might as well give us some and let us have our own segregated schools. So do with that what you will. The invention of abortion as a unifying issue After considering various issues like school prayer, women's liberation, the men of Lynchburg, which is where the genesis of this happened, they weren't finding that vehicle that was culminating, galvanizing everybody together. They, quote, landed upon the one surprising word that would supply the key to political puzzle of our age, abortion. The issue was cobbled into a political agenda of the religious right after the 1975 action, but not before. A few things that I want to point out in chapter 3 also was this thing called steeplejacking. Anybody come across that word?
Yeah.
Roxanne, I see you nodding.
Word, I don't remember what it was.
Anybody remember what steeplejacking is? It's okay if you don't.
It's a concept of installing more conservative people
Whoa!
into higher levels of position in churches and taking over those churches
Marcelo's
from the
here.
conservative.
Oh,
In
I'm
a
sorry,
conservative
Marcelo.
manner.
You just, wow, you're here. How did I? Oh, Marie's here. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see anybody. Hey. Oh,
Hi,
sorry.
Mom.
Oh, oh, Marcelo is here. Marie is here. I'm sorry, you scared the deuce out of me. Marcelo, steeplejacking, do it again.
Steeplejacking was the concept of installing more conservative leaning people in higher positions in churches and in church governments. Like one of the ones she used was the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yes.
And putting those conservative leaders in place to make all of those church powers, we'll say, more conservative leaning.
Absolutely. Nailed it. And really, I mean, it is an orchestrated machine to drive a wedge in local churches, let alone the denomination. And so it was orchestrated, it was intentional. I first learned about it and only predominantly know about it through the last 20 years in the Presbyterian Church and in the United Methodist Church. Marie, you've been around. I'm thinking about First San Antonio.
First San
That was-
Antonio, that was definite steeplejacking there.
Yeah. So what we in Texas, and I can only speak from my context and what I've witnessed in Texas, was a particular law firm that I know first started with Highland Park United Methodist Church, excuse me, Highland Park Presbyterian Church, which is in Dallas.
Yeah.
And the pastor, first it started with packing the session with like-minded individuals as described here. Then it became, how do we skirt the process to get a pastor that the presbytery will approve, but it's the one that we want that will lead us out and away from this presbytery nonsense. And so there was a lot of manipulation of the Book of Order going against how we've outlined it in our Constitution, to not only get the church council we want, but to get the specific pastor we want. And this pastor, and there are many of them, one among many, whose specific job is to come in and do steeplejacking. And once in, creating this kerfuffle within the denomination, within the congregation, to the point of leading them out. And on the way of leading out, there was a law firm, still is a law firm, who is pro bono for this movement to fight for that church, to ensure that they get their property from the denomination, because the property is owned by the denomination, and to get it and to get out without having to pay hardly anything for it. So you can imagine how, if you know Dallas, Highland Park Presbyterian Church, the wealthiest real estate in the state of Texas. And to get out of the denomination and to get away with their property was a major coup. And when they finished with Dallas, they went down to Houston, and I cannot remember the name of the church in Houston, but it was, I don't remember.
I think it's First downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were two in Houston. First was one of
And Memorial,
Memorial Drive, yeah. And they finished with them and then they came over to San Antonio. And one of my first Presbyterian meetings was at that church in San Antonio. In the midst of all of this, we're taking our toys and leaving. But in the midst of the lying, and I'm calling it out, this lying and nefariousness of steeplejacking. This has happened in the large churches, the tall steeple churches, all the way down to the small steeple churches. And we have seen it in the United Methodist Church.
Same playbook.
It's the same playbook and same people. And they've orchestrated it with the governor and the attorney general to be able to say what's ours and what isn't ours. And so each of these denominations, like the regional bodies within the denominations of PCUSA, United Methodist, have had to create what is called a gracious separation policy, just some way to kind of mitigate it. And as they were going through this over the last 20 years, the vehicle that they found to be the divisive wedge wasn't abortion, but was about same-sex marriage and leadership. And so this again, what I feel I want to highlight with chapter 3 is so well-oiled machine. There's more I want to get into related to chapter 4. So if you got something else you want to say about chapter 3, hold it. And we're going to come back and do some more. Chapter 4 is titled "The Mind of a Warrior," and this was the area in the book where I felt like, okay, I've made it through the first introduction of first 3 chapters. You know, now I'm really digging in, and this was the one that really got me engaged. And the idea of this is there is a sense of hyper masculinity in this Christian nationalist movement. The role of men, in particular white men, within this movement as the head of the house. So if you theologically take this idea that Stuart is describing, if you theologically take this idea that the man is supposed to be the head of the house, what the man says about anything in the house is what goes. Okay. This is clear and obvious. There is nothing. And if you are not leading into your role as the man of the house, you are and I saw it, forgive the language, well, a vaginal slur, as I saw on the internet this weekend at a pulpit, saying, if you are not being, masculine dude, then you are a vaginal slur. That was in a sermon from last weekend of one of these types of churches saying, you need to get out of here if you are not embracing your role. That's what this is about. And your family needs to vote how you're telling them how to vote. That's how this works. And now imagine that being the mental mindset of what is inside of a home that is being preached and taught inside of a home, using the Bible to back that up in whichever kind of bastardized way that they do. Imagine that mindset now being ascribed to the man of the local God's house, me, your pastor. And what I say for you to do is the way it needs to go. So if I'm telling you, you need to vote your biblical principles so that we don't lose our tax ID. And by the way, let me tell you what our biblical principles are. Our biblical principles are these things, and there's one party of the others that is more like them, but I'm not going to tell you which one, wink, wink. But I am the masculine man of the house, and you shall do what I say. This is the protection of the movement of why we want to get rid of, they want to get rid of the Johnson Amendment so that I can overtly, I, the pastor, overtly tell you how to vote. And you will follow because this is ordained by God. So there's a whole theological mess there, which would be the great foundation for one of my theology classes later on, but not today. How do we then begin to mobilize the religious leaders in these various areas all around the world? Well, let me talk about the city of Austin. In the city of Austin, I came October 1st, 2013 was my first Sunday here. And let's see, the Cooks were here, Marie was here, John was here, Diana was here, Diane was here. You may remember that the fall of 2013, we were going through a sermon series that was for the entire city. Do you remember what it was called?
No, but
Oh, Raven was here. Explore God. And the movement was orchestrated by an organization in town called Christ Together Greater Austin. And the idea was, especially from the Bethany did it. The idea was originated by one of these evangelical Christian nationalist groups. How do we get more than 300 churches in Austin preaching the same stuff every Sunday? And how, if we do that, then we can invite all these unchristian people to come in and learn about our Christian faith.
Yes.
And they produced a curriculum, a sermon curriculum and Bible study curriculum, obviously had a very certain bend to it. So when I came, the associate pastor at the time, Holly, had said that a lot of Presbyterians said, we're going to get in and do this thing, but we're going to adapt this curriculum to our own theology, which is great. So my first Sunday here was in the middle of that sermon series, and it was, who is Jesus? What a great sermon to just jump into as a new pastor here. So that was one way that Christ Together Greater Austin, this organization, has, and we've done it now 3 times. There's been 3 community sermon series: the Art of Neighboring, or Explore God, the Art of Neighboring, and Life After Death. And that Life After Death one was the one that we did right after COVID started, but we had been planning it for a year in advance. And that's one part of what Christ Together Greater Austin does. Another part that they do is, how do we get our pastors together in such a way that they are, and she calls it in here, the culture impact teams, right? Greater Austin, Christ Together Greater Austin calls it PIC, the Pastors in Covenant. And I was in one of these PIC groups for 5, 6 years, maybe 6 years, up until a year and a half ago. And I was there with the pastor of Bethany United Methodist, Fred DeVinny, and we met at Hill Country Bible Church, where Tim Hawks is the senior pastor there. He's now retired. So it was Tim and Tom and me and all of the tall steeple Christian nationalist evangelicals of Cedar Park, Leander, and then me for the last 6 years, met monthly. And the idea was, how do we not only foster a sense of community amongst these pastors, but also when there are ways in which we can press our congregations a certain way, as she describes the culture impact teams, there's an organizational way to do that. And so, you know, as she talks about that, these teams are tasked with advancing kingdom values in the public arena by persuading congregants to vote in line with biblical values. That there's a unified message amongst these groups. So while I was in one group, there are scores of those PIC or PIC groups across Christ Together Greater Austin. They are also the ones who orchestrate a thing called Education Connection. Education Connection, we would know it here as the Reading Buddies program, which we did for 5 or 6, 7 years. That wing of Christ Together Greater Austin specifically has to be non-religious, but it is the movement of all these churches who are supplying the volunteers for the Reading Buddies, and so that there would be Christ in the hallways of these schools. it's a long story. But again, another element where how do we engage with public education in a way that we're engaging with the kids, that's showing them what a real Christian looks like. Okay. So another movement that she talked about as far as for mobilizing the faithful, and this isn't something that I explicitly saw in Christ Together Greater Austin, were voter guides. And she talked about this. The North Carolina Family Policy Council distributed voter guides that, while presented as nonpartisan, clearly endorses candidates from one party, Republican, by framing issues in highly moralistic binary terms: life versus death, religious freedom versus religious tyranny, etc., etc., etc. She spoke at great length in chapter 4 about Ralph Drawlinger. And I did not realize, I didn't know, and I'm glad she defined it, that he's an ex-NBA person. So he's like 7'1", 7'2". I looked him up on the internet, and like, wow, this is contemporary. This is us right now. One of the things that, excuse me, that Ralph orchestrated was Capital Ministries, and it is Bible studies that would be held in the halls of Congress in DC, and became the ways in which y'all are all elected Congress people. And Capital Ministries not only would meet and do Bible studies with you, specifically the men, specifically the white men, but then also tell you in your office, this is how you should vote on this thing or that thing, and this, that, and the other. I want to show you an example of what that looks like in the state of Texas. And I do this by way of a few disclaimers. There's a new nonprofit. It's within the last 2 years. I would classify it as a Christian nationalist organization. It's called the Church Ambassador Network of Texas. There are 6 founding men of this. One of them is a pastor from Hill Country Bible Church, someone that I've known for the whole time that I've been here, and someone that I've broken bread with and shared life with and care for. Although I'm not crazy about some of which I'm about to show you. So I want to qualify showing you this is real. This is happening right now. This is how the Christian nationalism movement works. While it's in the state of Texas, this happens in every state house and also nationally. So this is a state local example of this. Okay. Let me turn off my glaring bald forehead and share screen. Share. Do that. Share sound and share. All right. So this is the Church Ambassador Network of Texas. And this fella right here, his name is Doug James, and I count him as a friend, as a colleague. He is also a chaplain for the Cedar Park Police Department, and so I'm engaged with him regularly. On their this is their primary homepage. We create a partnership with our elected officials that advances God's kingdom, promoting good governance that honors biblical principles and benefits the entire state. Their mission vision: the mission of Church Ambassador Network is to inspire the church to engage government for the advance of God's kingdom. We accomplish this by connecting the shepherds of God's church, pastors, to God's shepherds of government, the king, or today's elected officials. So here is the first video that I want to play.
In a world where government and faith often seem disconnected, the church.
And I want to make sure, Marie, Marcelo, Kitty, were y'all able to hear the video? Okay, here it goes.
A world where government and faith often seem disconnected, the Church Ambassador Network serves as a guide, connecting pastors and elected officials. By uniting the shepherds of God's church with the shepherds of God's government, we create a partnership that advances God's kingdom, promoting good governance that honors biblical principles and benefits the entire state. I'm Brian English, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Church Ambassador Network of Texas. Our mission at the Church Ambassador Network is to inspire the church to engage government for the advancement of God's kingdom. We do that by connecting the shepherds of God's church, our pastors, with the shepherds of God's government, our elected officials. In accordance with Romans 13, we believe that government was instituted by God to promote good and to punish evil. Throughout history, spiritual leaders have served as guides to those in government. The Church Ambassador Network continues that tradition. Our approach emphasizes three key words: person, shepherd, and partner. Person. We get to know officials as individuals, not attempting to impact them through force of will or with a handout seeking favor, but with open arms, knowing that true transformation comes when people see Christ accurately and rightly value Him. We meet them right where they are, valuing them as unique people created in the image of God. Next, shepherd. We help officials to see themselves as shepherds in God's institution, encouraging them to serve in a way that blesses the people of Texas and honors Him. Finally, partner. We come alongside governing officials, believing that the church can be a valuable partner in meeting the state's needs. The result? Government officials begin to see the church as an ally, witnessing firsthand the work of Christ's hands and feet and hearing His gospel. Our network, part of a growing association now in 18 states, advances God's kingdom across the nation and right here in the Lone Star State. We invite pastors to join us in this unique mission field to bless those in positions of authority. For more information, visit churchambassadorstx.com.
All right, so what's one takeaway here? What's one thing you heard or didn't hear? Frank.
If these churches would treat the people in their community like they treat their political people they're going after, then we wouldn't have church attendance problems.
Okay. What else did you hear or not hear?
I heard shepherd of God's government. I mean, that just.
Okay. Okay. How many states? For just this organization, right? See how it's reflective of the capital ministries that she was talking about in that chapter. So this legislative session was their first time in the state of Texas. On the first 2 days of the legislative session this year, they printed leather-bound Bibles and embossed the names of every elected official, and the pastors in this network from Texas all came here to Austin and had a half-day, full-day training, and then the next day went and in pairs, at least two at a time, two volunteers per elected official, delivered the Bible, the leather-bound, name-embossed Bible, to the elected official as a gift, and prayed for them in the office, right? I was invited to participate in this, and I had to do my hair. Thank you. So this is on the tab called At the Capitol, and this is an orientation video we want you this would have been from like December, January. We want you to join us to come do this thing. This video is it's like 4 minutes. And so hear more. It's an invitation movement about what happens when you
Welcome
come
to the Church Ambassador Network. Pastor, when you come to the Capitol with the Church Ambassador Network, it's more than just a day in Austin meeting with governing officials. It's an opportunity to be part of an ongoing ministry in and around the Texas Capitol. Your visit is a one-day mission trip that connects the shepherds of God's church with the shepherds serving in government. And when you walk into the Capitol with the Church Ambassador Network of Texas, you're not alone. Our staff will walk with you every step of the way. As with any mission trip, having a guide is key. The Church Ambassador Network is like your interpreter and guide, speaking both the language of the Capitol and the language of the church. Our team has over 90 years of combined pastoral ministry experience, and we also interact with governing officials on a regular basis. That experience enables us to help you build relationships with leaders and to open up doors for you to minister to and pray with those who serve in our state government. When you come to the Texas Capitol, be sure to dress in business attire. Think suit and tie. And don't forget your Bible. Even if you usually preach from a digital version, bring a paper Bible with you. Trust us, it makes us easy to identify among the various groups in the building, and it's definitely part of the experience. Your day starts in the Capitol Chapel on the 4th floor, where we gather for a briefing and prayer. From there, we head into meetings with elected officials. These meetings follow a simple but powerful format. We open up the scripture, take time to get to know the officials as people, and close with prayer for them and their work. We're here to help officials see themselves as shepherds, serving in an institution God has ordained, and to show them how the church can be an essential partner in meeting the needs of Texas. Pastors often come with friends or colleagues, but many leave with new relationships, connecting with pastors from other evangelical denominations and from different regions of the state. You'll be part of a diverse group, united in your mission to serve. We aim to wrap up by 3:30, getting you home before the evening traffic. But we're flexible, staying as long as needed to seize every opportunity God gives us. Join us for a day at the Capitol with the Church Ambassador Network of Texas, engaging government for the advancement of God's kingdom and the benefit of Texas. Learn more at churchambassadorstx.com. Pastor, we look forward to seeing you at the Texas Capitol.
So, inspiring the church. In Romans 13, 1-7, we read that God established the institution of government for our good, that he sovereignly places each leader in that government, and we are to honor, respect, and obey them. We also see throughout God's word that he calls his spiritual shepherds to come alongside the ministers, shepherds of government, to provide his vision and direction. Examples include Our mission is to inspire, yada, yada, yada. Every election, there is some turnover in the legislature, and many pastors also live in different districts, the location of the church. If you'd like to set up a special time with your whatever, there you go. So, what did you hear in that second video? Or didn't hear?
Sounds like they've been taking lessons from the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay.
I would say that they are recognizing the power of numbers of people all working together in their mission.
Okay. Okay.
It's not just one person trying to.
Yeah.
The group.
Yeah. Marcelo?
I was gonna say they used the word shepherd a lot in the first video and that one, and a shepherd is the one who's guiding sheep to where they want them to go. Like sheep don't have any say over where they're going, but this is a democracy or republic, or it's supposed to be, and the people are supposed to tell them where they want to go, not the other way around. So they're like, I don't know, overtly saying that they want to guide people in the way they should go, as opposed to listening to the mandate that was given to them when they were elected.
Yeah. Yeah, Leon?
Well, I guess I still have trouble stuck back at separation of church and state. That these people were allowed in and access to these congressmen to begin with. I mean, to me, yes, they may be calling themselves a religious organization. They are lobbyists.
Yeah,
Sure.
They are essentially.
They're ambassadors, Leon.
Well,
They're church ambassadors. So there's nothing illegal here. There's on the face, right? I mean, absolutely. They can go down, we as Hope Presbyterian Church could and should go down to our elected officials and meet with them. And the separation of church and state does not say that we couldn't, as a religious organization, go and convey our displeasure with certain aspects of law. We certainly can't have them turn it around and say, we're displeased with the kind of religion you're running at that place, and therefore we've made a law prohibiting it. That would be a violation of that church and state. But access to our elected officials as a lobbyist is not illegal or wrong, right? Yeah.
So what happens when they come across a representative like James Tallarico, who knows what they're up against? Do they just ignore that person and don't go visit?
I guarantee you, these individuals go to every elected office. Now, every elected office may not want to receive them,
Right.
but they'll go to every elected office. So the story I heard down at the Capitol this last session when I was down there for an event. So there is a chapel on the upper rotunda of the Texas State Capitol. It was the money for it was given by a previous elected official who, after died, had the money set aside in his fund to build the chapel. His wife, the widow, built the chapel. And so elected officials can go up there and use that as a space to pray. Well, the first Muslim man, Muslim? Yeah, first Muslim or Hindu? I think it was Muslim. The first Muslim elected official is in this Congress right now. And in it, he bought a Quran to leave in that chapel. Well, the Quran was stolen within a couple of days. And he worked with the security of the Capitol and saw the footage, and they found who stole it. And I'm not going to say who it was, even though he did. And he confronted the person and said, the person said, my husband's money is the one who built the chapel, and I'm not gonna, this is a Christian chapel, I'm not gonna let Muslim stuff in there. And wouldn't return the Quran to him. Anyway, long story short, there would be questions I would have about that with regard to violation of church and state. But that being said, I think a lot of folks who are not Christian nationalists, folks like maybe like ourselves, may get so narrow focused and short-sighted on flare-up issues like that. That is what leaves progressive churches so far behind this well-orchestrated machine of Christian nationalism. He said it in the video there is, we're not coming with, I'm paraphrasing, we're not coming with, beat the drum, da 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 da. We're coming with relationships, right? And I take it as an affront to those who are progressives, to the progressive church, of him saying, we're not coming with, to beat the drums, insinuating that is what progressive churches would come if you wanted to make it binary that way. So I bring that example to you as this idea that she's elevating in chapter 4, this concept of the mobilization of the Christian nationalist churches is a well-oiled machine that has half a century or more head start on an anti-Christian nationalist movement. The final thing I want to say, and we're just going to have to, damn it, there's so much good stuff here. Let me get into two more things. One is biblical law and dominionism. Leaders promote the idea that legitimate government rests on adherence to biblical law and a specific religious, ethnic, or cultural heritage, not on the consent of the governed. So going back to the idea about the sheep and the shepherds, that biblical law and a dominionist theology would run counter to the idea of for the people, by the people that you were talking about, Marcelo. Dominionist theology asserts that true Christians must gain control of the 7 mountains or areas of civilization: government, business, education, media, arts and entertainment, family, and religion. These are the 7 pillars for which dominionism, biblical law, Christian nationalists must corner the market on, and is their goal. And the power, the strength behind this is moved through male supremacy and female subordination. And yeah, I've run out of time. So I think that's all I can say today. I want to honor all of our time. I didn't get to chapter 5, but we're going to press on. We're going to do, I think this is the only week, which was a 3-chapter week. And so I think the rest are 2-chapter weeks. I would encourage you, let's see. Well, I didn't put the, did I put it in there?
There's
What chapter?
3, 6, and 7.
Yeah. So chapter 6 and 7 for next week. I would encourage you to not make it to next Saturday and not think about some of the stuff we talked about today. And then I would also encourage you to consider pulling yourselves out from emotional despair and futility, emotional feeling of there's nothing I can do, or apathy, to, well, what is it can do? And I'll tell you for myself, I wrestle with some of the very same things that they say are things that I myself have said here and in this pulpit. I have said, can't tell you who to vote for, but I think that I would encourage folks to say, how is what I'm voting for and who I'm voting for in alignment with the red letters of the gospel? That's what I would say. How I will tell you that when I go to the ballot box, I'm asking, how is it that what I'm voting for and who I'm voting for fulfills the righteous requirements of Christ of Matthew 25? To feed, to give drink, to welcome, to clothe, to comfort, and to visit. Those are things that I'm carrying with me, and I don't need to make a track book voter guide for you. The red letters of the gospel are my voter's guide. And so what I struggle with in going through this book is I want to be a person of integrity and authentic as your pastor, and guiding how I think our faith might inform how we participate in government. I can't divorce the two. I can't leave my Christian faith in the parking lot when I go into Randall's to vote. I can't do that. Nor, if I'm an elected official, can I leave it at home. I carry it with me my faith with me wherever I go. It informs how it's just a matter of imposing that upon others, and using it to corrupt and wield systems that might be unjust, create inequity, or cause harm. And is what I'm saying in voting for doing something to cause harm for others? And that is where I think there is a line that is drawn. I would think that some of the Christian nationalists would say that what we're saying, what we're doing, is to undo harm, not to cause harm. You're already causing harm in this corrupt, sinful, depraved society that has become. And when we talk about universal health care, that is nothing but causing harm, because it's an anti-capitalist perspective, and God has endowed you to take care of yourself. And I think there's a short-sightedness there of the kind of real harm that talk and those actions can cause. So I would be thinking this week about how to, and we're going to keep getting into this book and keep getting into emotional cement shoes that can just pull you down to the bottom of the river. I want to encourage you to think about ways in which we can rightly wade through this and what that really looks like for you and yourself. Okay. Thank you. And I'm sorry that we're rushing off, but Leon, you close us in prayer.
God of justice and mercy, we have grappled today with narratives that both trouble and provoke us. Lead us always toward truthfulness, gentleness, and courage. Give us clarity of thought and compassion of heart, enabling us to resist manipulative myths instead confidently in the liberating truth of your gospel. As we go forth, equip us to witness boldly yet humbly to the faith we profess. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, real quick.
Yes, Marcelo.
So she mentions the book by Michelle Goldberg called Kingdom Coming: The Rise of Christian Nationalism, and it was written in like 2005. I think the edition I had was 2007. It's eerily prophetic, and it was written before Obama was even elected. So if anyone wants to borrow that and read it for more reading, I will happily lend it to you.
Do you have it there on your desk?
I don't. I can run downstairs and get it,
Okay.
but no, I don't have it just on me.
Hey, Marcelo, email me the name of that information, and I'll include it in my handouts for next week.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Bye, y'all.